Motivation and Wisdom presents Summary of Total Recall by Arnold Schwarzenegger. Part 1. From a Small Village to a Bigger Dream. When you read Total Recall, you're not just flipping through the pages of a celebrity's life, you're stepping into a storm of belief, struggle, sheer will, and vision so relentless it almost feels impossible to replicate. Yet, here you are, trying to decode what made Arnold, Arnold. And right from the first few chapters you start realizing, it all began in a small village called Thal in Austria. You imagine the snow, the wooden house, the strict father, Gustav, a former police chief and soldier, and the hard-working mother who held the home together. You feel the cold in your bones as Arnold wakes at dawn to fetch water or chop wood before school. He wasn't pampered. He was hardened. The discipline wasn't a choice, it was the standard. But what shocks you is the clarity young Arnold had. While most kids were busy being kids, Arnold, by age 10, already had a vision. He wanted out. He dreamed of America. He dreamed of muscle. He dreamed of being bigger than life itself, not just physically, but completely. That kind of hunger is rare. And when you read it, you start questioning your own drive. What are you aiming at? Are you clear? Or are you floating? By the time he sees a poster of Reg Park, the bodybuilder turned Hercules actor, something clicks in him. It's not just admiration. It's a strategy. That's the path. Build the body. Get into films. Get to America. Conquer. This kid from a poor European village just made a plan that sounds insane, but that's what makes the story magnetic. He didn't need permission. He just needed a target. You start to notice a pattern as you keep reading. Arnold never waits. He acts. He builds his first gym with his friends using bricks and scrap metal. He trains like a man possessed. While his peers are drinking or chasing girls, Arnold is training twice a day, eating like a machine, and obsessing over how to get better. He even breaks into the gym on Sundays when it's closed. Every rep is a brick in the wall of his dream. You see something crucial here. He wasn't waiting to be discovered. He was preparing to be undeniable. And as you keep going, the wisdom starts to hit you deeper. His first competition, Mr. Junior Europe, he wins. Then more. But it wasn't about the trophies. It was about progress. Even when he was the youngest on the stage, he walked in like he owned the room. Not out of arrogance, but out of certainty. He visualized it so much that it became truth in his body before it became reality on stage. You're reminded here of something powerful. The mind leads, the body follows. That's how he trained. That's how he lived. By age 19, Arnold is in the army, mandatory service in Austria, but he finds a way to sneak out to attend a competition in Germany and wins Mr. Europe. The army puts him in jail for going AWOL, but they also see his potential and begin to support his training. Think about that. He risked punishment for a shot at progress. How often do you take that risk? Or do you play it safe? Then comes one of the most pivotal turns, America. The dream becomes real. He moves to California with barely any English, a strong accent, and only one contact, Joe Weider, the godfather of bodybuilding. And even though he was already a champion, Arnold has to start over. New culture, new people, new standards. And yet he thrives. He starts training at Gold's Gym in Venice Beach, what would become the mecca of bodybuilding. And the moment you read about it, you feel the atmosphere: sweat, iron, sand, competition. This wasn't just fitness, this was war. But Arnold was at home. His confidence again becomes a theme. He talks to people. He watches movies. He studies English. He practices his smile. He makes friends. He learns business. He doesn't waste a second. That's what strikes you most. He's always learning, absorbing, plotting. He's not just building his body, he's building his identity. Then comes Mr. Olympia, the big one, the Everest. He wins it, again, and again, and again. 7 times in total. Each time with the same attitude, I'm not just going to win, I'm going to dominate. And it's not ego, it's strategy. If you let people think there's a chance you'll lose, they fight harder. But if you crush hope, they crumble. Arnold played the mental game as much as the physical one. Confidence was his armor. But here's where total recall becomes more than a bodybuilding story, because he doesn't stop there. Most would retire and coast, but Arnold shifts gears. He starts investing in real estate. While others partied with their prize money, Arnold bought property, apartment buildings, duplexes, and soon he becomes a millionaire before he even made a cent from acting. This is the lesson you sit with as a reader. Don't put all your bets on one path. Use the spotlight, but don't depend on it. Build wealth, buy freedom, be smart. And then the movies come. And this is where most people think his journey begin. Part 2. The rise beyond bodybuilding. Hollywood, hustle, and reinvention. When you turn the page to Arnold's Hollywood years, it feels like stepping into a new battlefield. You expect the glitz and glamour, the red carpets and movie premieres, but what hits you first is the grit. The countless auditions where he's laughed at, the directors who say he's too foreign, too bulky, too unmarketable, and the endless grind behind the scenes that no one sees. You realize something critical. Fame isn't handed out. It's earned through relentless persistence. Arnold's voice was thick with an accent that most thought would never work for a movie star. His body was huge, too big for most leading roles. His name? Impossible to pronounce for many. And yet, he refused to fit the mold. Instead, he created his own. He didn't settle for being the big guy. He became the big guy, a unique brand. You see how he learns lines over and over, takes dialect lessons, studies the art of acting, and never stops showing up. That persistence pays off. His first big break, Conan the Barbarian, isn't just a movie role, it's a declaration. Arnold is no longer just a bodybuilder, he's a star in the making. You catch yourself thinking, how many times have I given up before my Conan moment? Arnold's story challenges you to keep going when doors slam in your face, because your breakthrough could be right after the next no. Then comes The Terminator, a movie that changed everything. His famous line, "I'll be back," isn't just a catchphrase, it's a metaphor for his entire life. The promise to himself that no matter how many obstacles come, he will always return stronger. But Hollywood wasn't the end game. Reading further, you learn how Arnold's sharp mind worked behind the scenes too. He invested his hard-earned money into real estate, growing wealth silently while the cameras rolled. When others splurged, he saved and built. That's a lesson you can't ignore. Diversify your hustle, build security beyond your spotlight. What strikes you next is his mindset around failure and rejection. Hollywood, business, even politics. Arnold's failures weren't setbacks, they were fuel. He embraced risks no one else would touch. He knew the world would doubt him, his accent, his background, even his intentions. But he didn't let those doubts become his own. You feel his mantra deep inside the pages. Don't listen to the naysayers, don't wait for permission, be a force of nature. And then you reach the chapters about his reinvention in politics. This is where the story stops being about muscle or fame and starts being about legacy. California's governor, a role no one expected from a bodybuilder turned actor. But Arnold knew that life doesn't give you one shot. it gives you the chance to redefine yourself over and over. He stepped into the political arena with the same determination that built his body and his career. He didn't have all the answers, but he had vision and he had courage. That resonates because you realize that success isn't linear. It's messy, unpredictable, and sometimes requires starting over in entirely new fields. What you're left with is a powerful truth. The power to change your story lies in your hands. Arnold's life is proof. By the end of this part, you're not just inspired by his achievements, you're motivated to act on your own dreams, no matter how impossible they seem. Because if a kid from a tiny village, with nothing but grit and an unbreakable will, can conquer the world, what's stopping you? Part 3. The mindset of a champion. Discipline, visualization, and legacy. You realize quickly that discipline wasn't just about showing up at the gym or memorizing lines. It was a way of life, a code, something Arnold lived and breathed every single day. While others sought shortcuts or gave in to distractions, Arnold saw discipline as freedom. Freedom from doubt, freedom from regret, freedom from excuses. Reading about his daily routines, you find yourself questioning your own habits. How often do you settle for comfort over challenge? Arnold woke up early, trained hard, studied hard, and never let laziness sneak in. But it wasn't just about grinding. It was about intention. Every action had a purpose. Every rep, every word learned, every deal made was a brick in his empire. And then comes the power of visualization. This isn't just fluff. Arnold talks about seeing the end goal so clearly in his mind that it felt inevitable. He pictured himself winning titles, owning real estate, starring on the big screen, and leading a state. That mental movie wasn't just motivation. It was a blueprint. You pause and think, how vividly do you see your goals? Do you paint them clearly enough to make them feel real, or do they remain blurry wishes? Arnold's secret was combining relentless discipline with crystal clear vision. One without the other would have failed. What hits you next is his attitude toward failure and fear. Arnold didn't avoid risks. He ran toward them. He understood that fear is the mind's way of testing your limits, and growth lives just beyond that wall. He shares stories of losing elections, getting rejected by studios, and making business mistakes. But none of these stops him. Instead, they fuel a deeper hunger. Reading his words, you feel a fire building inside. You're reminded that resilience is the difference between those who dream and those who achieve. And then there's the idea of legacy. Arnold's journey isn't just about trophies or movies or money. It's about impact. He talks about the importance of giving back, inspiring the next generation, and using your success to create change. That makes you think, what mark do you want to leave? What's your purpose beyond personal gain? By the end of this section, Arnold's life becomes a manual, not just for success, but for living with purpose, passion, and relentless drive. You close the book not just motivated, but transformed. Because Total Recall isn't just his story, it's an invitation to remember your own power, to chase your own dreams, to build your own legacy. Because the only limits that truly exist are the ones you accept.